All right, guys, welcome back to another video. If it's your first time here, I make daily Xbox and gaming content, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're going to start off here. We're going to be talking about one of the games I'm most excited for in 2024. It's the game that, out of all the games they showed off at the Developer Direct, has me the most hyped, and that is AVOWED. And they even did a deeper dive into this game after the Developer Direct, which looks even cooler than what they showed off there. So definitely go check that out. But we have some more information here in terms of romance options for your companions. If you're somebody out there who loves to romance video game characters, AVOWED may not be the game for you, as they do say here that there will not be romance options with your companions, but there will be the availability to focus on thoughtful relationships. So this comes in an interview here with IGN. Carrie Patel, who is the game director for AVOWED, talked about romance options. Here's what she says. We are building thoughtful relationships with our companion characters. Ultimately, I personally am a fan of making that an option, but I feel like if you're going to do it, you really have to commit and make sure that you're giving all to fulfilling that in a way that feels both true to the character, but also creates an engaging player experience. So not something we're doing for AVOWED, but I wouldn't say never. So, I mean, what she says there does make sense. Like, if you're going to put that option in a game, people who want to do that type of thing, they want it to be as realistic as possible. Like, they don't want it just to be surface level, shallow. Like, they really, I feel like, want to feel the romance with that character. I mean, for me personally, I've never really been that huge into romancing options and romancing gaming characters. I don't really get that deep into it, but for the people that do, I can completely understand. You don't want a surface level a system there, and that's essentially what she is saying here. They also say here, or she points out, that dedicated romance systems in a story-focused game is a ton of work. You need options for both a fulfilling romance as well as a regular friendship for those who don't want to go down that path. So that obviously is something they had to deal with when deciding whether to do this. The other thing that she does talk about here is, in the context of games like AVOWED, letting the players shape their morality, doing good things, doing bad things, and those types of actions within games, and I think are very cool. I love when games do have that morality system. AVOWED, however, they say does not have a morality meter, but characters will certainly have feelings about the actions you take and won't be shy about expressing them. And I don't really care about actually having a meter. It's just when you go and you talk to characters and they know that you've done something that they don't agree with, they come back at you and let you know that feels, like we saw in Starfield. So I really hope those are really engaging. She says here, one of the fun challenges with design, particularly around consequences or even sometimes around player options that are reactive to either the kind of character you've built or choices you've made earlier in the game, is over the years I've learned that the stuff is always a lot less obvious to the player than to the designer. And so I think sometimes you have to be a bit more direct in tying those options and those consequences to content that's come before, because if it feels too natural and too understated, it feels like a thing that's happening, not a thing that's happening because of what you did. So basically, you're going to be able to have your companions, you're going to be able to make decisions with those companions. You're not going to romance them, but you're also going to be able to make decisions that are going to be affected in the game in terms of how your companions react to the things that you have done. And they're trying to make it as realistic and immersive as possible. So AVOWED, I mean, I'm very much looking forward to this one. Very much more so than any other game that is coming out from Xbox this year. Just from, I mean, Obsidian makes great games. What they did show off looked really good. Graphically looks cool. I love all of the different colors they have, as well as the more planar areas. They bring all that together into one world. We know that it isn't going to be fully open world. It's not going to be like a Skyrim style of game, but you are going to go to areas, and then you're going to be able to explore those areas, as well as use abilities to get into places that you wouldn't be able to explore if you didn't have those abilities. They showed examples of like being able to freeze water to get over to another part of the map that you're on. So AVOWED looks great, and I can't wait to jump in. Let's jump over here and let's talk about physical games, because we know physical games are going away, and I think Xbox is going to be the first company that truly gets rid of it all and kind of goes all digital. I mean, it's really pointing towards that. You look at their current strategy right now. The Xbox Series S is an all digital console. PS5 also has an all digital console, but they seemingly sell more physical games than Xbox does. And then we've seen their FTC document leaks with the Xbox Series X coming in as an all digital option. And I feel like they're going to start phasing out the disc version of the Xbox Series X. And statistically, it makes complete sense for Xbox to do this because you look at some of the stats, like I think it's only 10% of their physical games people buy, of Xbox gamers buy physical games, compared to PlayStation, where it's like 40%. The Nintendo Switch is 50%. However, I do see the Switch and Nintendo, as well as PlayStation, both going in the direction of trying to make everything all digital at some point, because going all digital for these companies essentially really only benefits right now, as we know, the company itself, in terms of keeping everybody locked into the ecosystem, being able to charge people whatever price that they want. I don't agree with that. I think it's a bad thing, which is why I think getting rid of physical games is going to hurt the customer more so than anything. But we're seeing more evidence of this, especially in Europe, as we had Christopher Dring here from GameIndustry.biz, who was talking on the Games Industry Microcast, and he commented on a major retailer in Europe that essentially isn't going to be stocking Xbox games anymore, physical Xbox games anymore, saying, "I got told by a major publisher just before Christmas that across Europe, several retailers have started not listing Xbox anymore. So they've just started not stocking Xbox games anymore. Xbox is such a digital console. The physical performance of games is really low. And ultimately, when you're selling a console that most people are just downloading games for, it doesn't really benefit the retailer very much." So this is the beginning. You're seeing retailers say, what's the point of selling physical Xbox games? Nobody's buying them. Why will we waste money stocking that? The inventory, all of the cost to go along with that. We've seen pictures pop up on social media as well of places in the United States, bigger box stores that really have no physical Xbox games, maybe just a few, but they have tons of Game Pass cards and Xbox store cards. So this is, they're telling us what they're doing. So we can't be surprised in a couple of years from now, in the next generation, if they do go all digital. They are pointing towards that. Myself, my opinion, I mean, I've said it before here, I don't like that. I like physical games. I still have tons of physical games. I think getting rid of physical games is going to hurt the consumer more so than everything. The big question here, though, that is still up in the air. And if this goes in the right direction, I will be a little bit happier with, or a little bit more okay, I should say, with getting rid of all physical games, is the price of the digital games. We've seen Hellblade 2 is going to be cheaper. There's no physical version of that. Alan Wake 2, I believe, was not sold at the $70, and there was no physical Alan Wake 2 game. But at the same time, there are still so many games that are on the digital storefronts that sell at full price. And you would think that maybe these publishers would incentivize people going digital for their products by reducing the price of the digital games themselves. And they haven't. And what that tells, I think, these publishers is that for years now, people have been buying digital versions of their games at that full MSRP, the same price as somebody would pay for the physical version. So what incentive would they have when they do actually get rid of the physical version, other than, I guess, they would have less costs, right? Because they don't have to make the physical game. What incentive would they have, though, to reduce the prices of their digital games when people are already buying millions of copies of them? I don't really see them doing that. I'm very skeptical on that. Even if they have less costs, they're businesses, they want to make as much money as possible. So that is yet to be foreseen. And those questions will be answered as we do enter the all digital era of gaming in next generation, or maybe the generation after that. At some point it is coming, and it is coming on faster than we think here, especially with stories like this, where physical retailers are just pulling games off the shelf now. All right, let's jump over here. And let's talk about this, because we talked a little bit about some of the Ubisoft numbers that did come out from that major Ubisoft report in terms of the sales. But what was also in that report was the future slate of games, 10 plus games coming from Ubisoft. So Star Wars Outlaws. This is a game that was shown off at the Xbox showcase that looks really, really good, coming from Massive Entertainment. I like Massive. I like what they did with Avatar. I like The Division. It looks like this game is slated right now for the first half of 2024, kind of conflicting because there are other reports that did come out that they were potentially delaying a major game into the second half of 2024 or the next quarter for their fiscal or their financial year. So it could potentially, I think, still launch in the first half of 2024, but maybe this is like a summer game, like a June release or something like that. I can't wait for Star Wars Outlaws, though. It does look great. Assassin's Creed Codename Red is looking to be coming out in the second half of 2024. That's that big open world Assassin's Creed RPG that is set in Japan that I think is going to be very good. Looking at a Ghost Recon mainline entry game coming in 2025-26. Then there's going to be a Far Cry mainline entry game in 25-26, a Far Cry multiplayer game in 25-26, Assassin's Creed Hex in 25-26, another one that they have already announced. Then there's Assassin's Creed Invictus in 25-26. So 2 Assassin's Creed games, 2 Far Cry games coming out all within the span of 2 years. And then Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake, which we've heard in the rumors, which I really hope they make because that's one of my favorite games. And then they continue on here with several new Assassin's Creed games. They're obviously double, triple, quadrupling down on Assassin's Creed. It is the franchise that makes them the most money. So Ubisoft isn't doing anything crazy here. We saw them kind of go off the beaten path with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which is a phenomenal game. But then we saw the sales numbers and they didn't sell very well. So the likelihood that they're going to continue with making games like that, I think, is relatively low. I hope not. I hope they do see the value in making that style of game, smaller development costs most likely, and there is a fan base for that. But there are many things that probably affected the sales of those games, like not releasing on Steam. But with likelihood, if they didn't make enough money, that they will take other characters and put it in a Metroidvania style game, I think is very low. So Ubisoft, the same thing that they're going to be doing for the next couple of years, which isn't surprising. The whole industry is, I think, going to be playing it safe now for a while, as we're seeing the layoffs and we're seeing the shrinkage. Okay, let's jump over here. 2 new Xbox Game Pass titles are on the way. They are confirmed for February and March. And those 2 games are a game called A Little to the Left, which is just like a puzzler game, a very small indie game. They have here in the genre relaxation. So if that's your style of thing, take a look for that one. And then the next one here is Lightyear Frontier, which is going to be available arriving March 19th. That is that like farming simulator with robots and mechs and stuff, and looks pretty cool. There is a demo available right now on Xbox and PC if you do want to try that. So just 2 titles that we now know are coming out for Game Pass in February and in March. We're talking about the next Call of Duty update. It's a huge update coming in Season 2 that's launching on February 7th. They put out this nice graphic showing you everything that is in there. So if you want to just go and deep dive every little thing that's there, go check that out. But here are the main highlights for this update. The Fortune Keep is coming. There are a bunch of new maps coming. So Stash House, Vista, Departures, Operation Tin Man, Das House Remastered, the Skid Row variant and Airborne variant. Walking Dead crossover events is coming where Rick Grimes is in the Battle Pass as well as Michonne's in the Battle Pass. If you go down and look at the picture. 4 new weapons, the SOA Subverter, the Ram 9, the BP-50, and the Soul Render. 5 new events are going to be added here. New story missions for zombies, which is cool, and new modes, Team Gun Game, Bounty, Horde Points, Snipers Only, and Juggernaut. So a huge update here coming February 7th. For Call of Duty Season 2, and there's still going to be tons more content, I'm assuming, coming out later down the line. All right, let's jump over here. We'll end off talking about this rumor, and this has to do with a brand new PlayStation handheld that could be coming out. So we've seen the PlayStation Portal. I bought that thing. I returned it right away as it was pretty useless. I think it was a waste of money, and it just didn't work very well. There was lag, and I have good internet, but it just a lot of pixelation, artifacting and all that stuff with it because it's essentially just a remote play device. But an actual PlayStation handheld similar to like the PSP or the PlayStation Vita, I think would be really, really cool, and I would love to see it. I was a fan of both those portables. I loved the PS Vita. I thought that they cut off the development for it way too early and the support for it way too early. There were so many good games on it, and it looks like potentially PlayStation may be trying to get back into the handheld market. This is the rumor. And this is from Moore's Law is Dead YouTube channel. So definitely take this with a grain of salt, because I believe this guy was one of the people who at the beginning of this generation was reporting that the PS5 was going to have RDNA 3, which is just such an absurd thing to believe. To even report that kind of blew my mind that so many people thought that was going to happen. I believe he was one of those. So take this one with a grain of salt. But this is what he says. Says the specs for this new PlayStation handheld have yet to be defined, but Moore's Law is dead speculates it's likely to utilize 18 CUs to maintain compatibility with all PlayStation 4 titles available on the PlayStation Store. In addition, the console will be compatible with PlayStation 5 titles as well, although developers would have to patch them to make them run properly on the console. As much, it's plausible the new system's GPU could run at 1.8 gigahertz or slower due to PlayStation 5's variable clock speed. So that's all he really says. That's all we really know about the handheld, and also that it could just be 2 years away. So and this is just a huge rumor, but I would think this would be a great idea, and I wouldn't be surprised if this does happen. You look at the popularity of these PC handhelds now. Started with the Steam Deck, that kicked off everything. We've got the Asus ROG Ally, the Legion Go, MSI is putting out a handheld. Ioneo is just like, they put out tons of different handhelds, and handheld PCs to play the current generation of games are exploding right now. This is a great time for handhelds. They are brought back to prominence, and I loved handhelds. They were here for a long time. You go all the way back to like the Game Boy, and then the 3DS and the PSP, the PS Vita, and then they just kind of died off. But we're back again with these PC handhelds. The biggest difference between these handhelds and the ones back in the day is that these handhelds are just playing the games that you're playing everywhere else. They're not getting specific games developed for them. I don't think we will ever go back to those days, just because of the way that the ecosystem, cloud gaming, and all of those things can work right now with handhelds. So this would make a ton of sense. And honestly, maybe Xbox is also looking into a handheld to expand out their ecosystem if they want people to play in more ways and maybe want to cash in on that handheld market. I think it's less likely for Xbox, however, just because they do have Game Pass and they do all those partnerships with like the Asus, where you literally got a free month of Game Pass when you bought it, or maybe it was 3 months. And they have Xbox Game Pass marketing with a lot of these new PC handhelds that do release. But we will see. We'll see if this rumor is true. I think this would be cool to see, and I hope PlayStation actually does make a brand new handheld. But I will end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.